Howdy, citizens. Welcome to Brewing TV. I'm your host, Jay Keeler.
I'm your other host, Michael Dawson.
Last year, we started a tradition, which is to do a wet hopped beer and do it together. This year, we're brewing at my pad and we're picking my hops. How they smell?
Oh, smell.
Smell.
They smell good. They smell grassy. They smell fresh. They smell vibrant. They smell like the moment. We have to capture the moment in beer.
So to capture the moment, we're doing a rye PA, and we're actually using the new Northern Brewer exclusive rye malt syrup. So we're going to give this a run for its money. Last year we made a rye PA as well.
It's another tradition. We're also taking a tour, the end of the season hop yards at Brewing TV, and we're tagging along with a couple of our homeboys who attended Hop Union's Hop School this year. All for brew.
Brew for all.
Cheers.
Cheers. I typically do extract brews at home, just not having a lot of time, but I want to brew some beer. And I love rye beers, but obviously up until now, you've either had to do a partial mash at the very least or an all grain version. So now this will enable, extract brewers and all brewers really to use this syrup,
Everybody
in place
can make
of
rye
malt. Yeah, exactly. So I'm really excited. I thought this was a great chance for us to use the new syrup, use some of my hops straight off the vine, and make a rye PA. So
it's a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Now you know a lot about the development of this syrup. If you could just kind of break it down for us.
Well, Jake, 70% pale malt, 20% rye malt, 10% caramel 40, which is just kind of a versatile formulation. We told Breeze what we wanted, and they did a little test batch for us. We got to play around with this syrup, try a few different recipes. We really liked it.
Yeah.
It's got the same kind of gravity contribution from that most other malt syrups will have. It's about 1035 ppg. Color, because of the C40, is about 6 SRM. So you could use it for anything as pale as like an American-style rye beer. You can obviously add a crap ton of hops to it, and that is awesome. We've done a really nice rye stout with it. That's a kit at Northern Brewer right now. It's a nice syrup. Its time has come. If you're an extract brewer, you should definitely check it out, because I got a knife!
All right, so we've got all of our syrup in. We've actually put in 9 pounds liquid malt extract.
9.3!
Yeah. So we're going to be starting to add our late edition hops here pretty soon. But before we get to that,
I want to know where these hops come from. I want to know more.
Yeah.
Join us on a tour of the BTV hop yards.
Chip, Mike, Jake,
go!
hops galore!
This is Chip Walton. We're going to start in my backyard for the hop crop report for 2011. And despite what it looks like here, there are actually hops here. My wife's tomato plant has totally overtaken my hop plants. We planted these tomato plants and never really trimmed them accurately, so now it's just like a crazy bush that keeps yielding like dozens after dozens of cherry tomatoes.
Tomatoes 1, hops 0.
It's kind of hiding the real star of this garden, which are the Fuggles. 4th year transplant, I believe, this year. This is about where we're at right now. You can see some of these cones have actually started to already dry themselves out essentially on the line. One thing that is a little different this year is it seems for some reason this year, more than any other year, they didn't really grow that far down the line. And that could be because they're 3 or 4 years old now, pretty much in the same container. So they're probably starved for space. Next year I'll be living in a new house in St. Paul, and I'll definitely be transplanting into the actual yard. So that's a super quick look at my very small scale, my nano farm of hops. I believe we're going to check in tomorrow with Mike and Jake in their backyards. Both of them have much stronger potential for higher yield than I do. So until then, cheers.
Hops. Good morning, citizens. These are my 2011 Liberty. They had kind of a setback early in the season, lost a bunch of the vines to a farmer accident, but they came back strong. I switched to wire this year instead of jute twine to hold them up because they were so prolific last year that a bunch of the infrastructure fell down during a windstorm. These guys came back strong enough and coned out prolifically enough to break some of the wire. So next year we're going to a heavier gauge. We had some pretty hot weather in the Twin Cities this year. For whatever reason, the hot weather seemed to agree with the Liberty more than my other bines. They smell very spicy this year, not as sweet as they did last year. These guys are pretty much ready to pick and dry. Hops. Let's go check out the alley. It smells nice over here. This is my second year Horizon. It's such a nice hop. It's so underappreciated. It's got such limited commercial acreage anymore. I kind of like thinking of it as an heirloom variety hop. As you might tell by my voice, I'm getting over a pretty bad cold. And because of that, I kind of missed the picking window on some of my Centennial. But fortunately, there's still lots of green. I'm gonna pick a few of these today and put them to some nefarious purpose. HopSquid. If you see one, don't approach it. All right, I've got this bucket of fresh Centennial just off the vine, grown by myself, picked with the help of Chip, and I'm just gonna walk down the basement with it. I hope that nothing bad happens. Oh, what's that? What's this for? It's almost as though some other power is compelling me. Oh, there go all the hops we just picked. The HopSquid is telling me to do bad things. What's going on with all these fresh, lemongrassy smelling? No, don't put them in there. That's never gonna work. What are you doing? Oh, this is dreadful. Somebody stop me. No, not in there. Anything but that. And it's already purged with CO2 in this keg. Quit cramming all these luscious hops inside this keg. We could have dried these. We could have used them for the future. Okay, well, they're in there now. Don't siphon barley wine in on top of those hops. No, anything but that. This is the last of the Wookiee. This Wookiee's gonna get wet. Be a wet Wookiee. Oh no. Can't anybody do anything? That 10% ABV is just gonna suck all that lupulin right out of those cones. I feel so helpless. The bitterness is still there. This was a really high IBU barley wine, but the hop aromatics are gone. It's just really malty. I kind of miss the aromatics. I liked the Wookiee as a hop monster. So some crazy person is putting a bunch of wet Centennial in that Wookiee. I'm gonna leave it in here for a couple, 3 weeks to really dig on those wet hops. And then I'm gonna carb it right in this keg and counter pressure fill it. We'll have some bottles of wet Wookiee for the harvest season. Smart. I hipped, I hopped, I will not stop. I've got a growler of beer, so we have something to drink at Schloss Keeler. Let's go.
So these are in the second year. I planted them last spring. They did fairly well last year. I actually got some production out of them in the first year, but the second year they went crazy and they grew up the trellis and they grew up the fence pretty quickly. So I decided to take some twine and just tie it to the second story of my house and have them grow over the top here and create a little canopy. And that seemed to make a huge difference, like giving them the ability to grow up. They took to that right away. They were growing at, it seemed, 6 to 12 inches a day, just climbing that line. It's all Centennial and Cascade. Production's pretty good, so I think I'll probably do this again next year. I might extend the lines out even further and take them even higher, just so I can grow them. I've given up on the hops that I planted back here against this fence. I did some Fuggles and I did some Centennials, and some of them came back from last year, but they just don't take, this just doesn't get enough sunlight. The soil is really bad over here, I think, so I'm just giving up on that fence line. And that was kind of the idea. As last year, I'd plant them in a lot of different places, see which, where they would take, where they wouldn't take, and they just haven't done much over here. So focus on over there, and then over here.
Yeah, I saw these when we were driving in.
Yeah, these are the Yakima Magnums, and this is the one vine that I've picked already. And I got this one and that one right there, and I got about a pound.
Just off this.
Just off that
chunk.
strip. Yeah, they're huge. They're just massive, massive cones. I mean, you look at that one, it's just, that's even small compared to that guy. And this one, last year, yeah. In the first year, this really produced quite a bit. And now this second year, it's gone crazy. So the challenge next year will be how to make this grow even further. As you can see, I roped some twine up to the deck here and, took to that pretty quickly. I would love to extend that somehow. My wife and I are talking about building a pergola onto this deck over the entire thing.
That's where you should grow these hops.
Yeah, in which case I think this entire corner could become the corner of Magnums. That's a great name for this beer.
Corner of Magnums?
No, Magnum PI.
Magnum RY.
Yeah.
Because it's rye.
Yeah.
I get to be Higgins.
Fair enough. It requires a mustache or some sort of facial hair to drink. For my bittering charge, at about 45 minutes, I'm going to do some Chinook, 1 ounce of Chinook. Now this is the new Hop Union packaging. We'll talk a bit more about that later in the segment, but we're going to add Chinook at 45 minutes. That's going to be our bittering charge. And then for the most part, our aroma and late addition charges are all going to be from the backyard. So I'm taking a note from Nate Smith, Brain Oil, Doze, Hop Master. He was talking about in the episode where you brewed with him about doing more small charges of late addition hops, and he thought that cut down on the vegetal quality and flavors that ended up, instead of doing a big 3 ounces all at once.
Massive hop dump.
Yeah, and so I thought with wet hops, to try to avoid some of that
This is vegetal
quality, we just do handfuls at a time every couple minutes. We got a pound of Yakima Magnum, Centennial, and Cascade. Yeah, look at that. You getting that, Chip? That's the money.
One more handful?
Yep.
All right.
One more Mike Johnson hand charge.
Here's your small charge.
With the crop this year, I think I'm probably going to end up doing 3 or 4 wet hopped batches. I'm going to do rye IPA, I'm going to do a regular IPA, and then I'm going to do 2 CDAs, 2 Cascadian Dark Ales.
No kidding.
And actually one of the dark ales I'm actually thinking about putting in some smoked malt.
Wow.
Give it a little smoked flavor. Yeah, I've been...
A Smoky Mountain CDA.
Yeah, exactly.
How are we going to kill time before our next hop edition, Jake Keeler?
Well, I got one idea.
Yeah?
We could talk a lot about these new packages from Hop Union.
We could kick it over to our homeboy, Dan Booty.
Even better.
He could tell us about Hop School at Hop Union.
Let's go on a magical journey to the Pacific Northwest.
Well, here we are in beautiful Yakima. Yeah, it feels like home.
Yep, this is where I want to be.
I almost feel like I'm back at the Northern Brewer conference room. I'm Dan Booty. I'm the customer service manager at Northern Brewer.
I'm Andrew Bartleson, the purchasing manager at Northern Brewer.
And we headed out to Hop Union in Yakima, 2 weeks ago, for a little hop school action. Check out the harvest and learn from a few brewers out there.
We wanted to, learn how they actually process hops and how they package them into the small packages that we've been able to bring you lately. It's a new product and it's a new process, and the more we know about how something is made, the better service we can give all of our customers out there in brew world.
It was quite an experience seeing all those hop binds hanging and
couple hours later, they're in a bale
Yep.
heading out to a warehouse somewhere.
Smelling the Simcoe, fresh
Yep.
on the vine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's good stuff.
The Cobra would have none of us taking his fancy, expensive camera out to Yakima, so I had to bring along the Eel's special pocket-sized digital camera. So the footage may or may not be up to the quality that the Cobra expects, but that's your fault, Cobra. Here it looks like you got the new packaging machine. That takes care of all those new Hop Union packages that we're sending out. It's a little blurry with the close-up there, but you can kind of see the nitrogen flusher flushing those packages right now as they go down the line. It's pretty much all automated.
Here they're performing tests on the hops, moisture content, things like that.
This is where they test all the alpha acids too,
Yep,
figure
yep.
out how many IBUs you're going to get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Get all your important stats in the lab here. So they did many cycles of these during each day that we were there, bringing in bales constantly. So here we're actually back out on the field. This is, you can see the harvest going on. So first this little guy comes through and chops off the bottom. You can see it kind of going through, taking off the bottoms there so that it just leaves them hanging. Here's the second guy coming through, taking the tops off, and then they just drop into the truck there. And then they have to stop and fill that truck up several times for each row.
When it's full, they take the load back to the sorting facility where they sort everything to kind of get it started on their production line, which is what this shot is right here.
All the bines are being hung on hooks, and then they slide across where they await stripping and sorting. So here they're all crashing together, waiting to go through the mill.
I was impressed with the basic engineering involved to actually separate the cones from all the other plant material. It was basic gravity is kind of what they use.
Pretty hands-off.
Yep.
It's all automated. And then you also have fans blowing across here that obviously leaves will blow off much more easily, so the cones fall back down and the leaves get sorted out. So this is pretty much the final stage of sorting. It's mostly cones here, but it's still catching a few leaves.
Mm-hmm.
All the cones will roll down those eventually, and all the leaves will roll up and over. So there's some more sorting going on. As you can see, the cones are bouncing their way down, the leaves are being carried up. And this is pretty much just cones on their way to the oast, or the big kiln, where they all get dried out. And now we're actually at the kiln. So this thing just drops a bunch of cones down until it senses that it can't drop anymore, and then it'll move a little bit and keep filling. Each of these sections, it's actually moved out within less than a day. It's
I think it was like 7 or 8 hours.
7 or 8 hours.
They'd spend in this area, and then
each
they'd
large
move them
section,
to the next
and
section.
then when they empty it, they actually, that you can see kind of like a burlap material below, and they'll lift all that up and dump them out the doors on the other side. So behind this guy, he's just checking the moisture right now, but you can see the doors on the other side. Those will open, and all these cones will get dumped out that side.
Mm-hmm.
So very, very critical to check the moisture. Otherwise, you can actually have not just not dry cones, but spontaneous combustion with those cones. You can actually have pretty severe fires. Check out that hop dust flying out. And whoa, what's he doing?
Holy moly!
Oh no!
Oh, that was a great
Oh, boy.
idea. Wait a minute, that's you, Dan, isn't it?
Yep.
Oh,
that
man,
was,
how did that feel?
that was a mistake. Yeah, that
It
dust
looked great,
did
though.
not come off later.
Yeah.
Probably took a few IBUs off of that stack of hops.
Yeah. Yep.
I
There was
needed
a trail
shower
of hop
badly.
dust all the way through Yakima.
Yeah, that was some burning.
Yep. It burns.
How's it smell?
After they're stored in the freezer and ready for processing, those that are going to be turned into pellets are sent over to the pelletizer, which is the largest piece of equipment that we saw at Hop Union.
They dump it right into a static shield, light barrier bag, and they flush with nitrogen, and they seal it up and box it up and set it out the door.
Then they come to us and head straight on to you. Don't spend a whole lot of time here at Northern Brewer.
A couple days and then they're out the door.
Jake Keeler mentioned some of the new Hop Union packaging that we've been getting. They did that to help ensure that the hops that get to you all are a lot fresher. So they do nitrogen flush all those packages and seal them and send them off. So they're also not transparent, so they will not skunk your hops before they get there. Hop and Brew School is a pretty cool event, but it's a lot of stuff packed into 2 days, and the first day of that is actually going to a lot of sessions. I mean, you get a tour of Hop Union itself, but then there's some sessions where different brewers, yeast suppliers, hop farmers are all there talking about different aspects of brewing. It's open to brewers and home brewers. There's one session for brewers and one session for home brewers, so it's all the same information for both. They just want to make sure that everybody gets a chance to go out there. So those of you home brewers out there, you should definitely check it out and go see where your hops are harvested and maybe learn a little bit from some of the big time brewers out there.
We would like to also send out a very special thanks to all the people at Hop Union. Their hospitality was second to none.
And thanks to Patrick Smith and the other folks over at Loftus Ranch. They were extremely hospitable. All the folks at both the ranch and at Hop Union pretty much gave us full access to everything. So, well, if there's nothing else to say, then all for brew.
Brew for all.
Taste that hoppy deliciousness.
Wah! You want a handful of hops in the kettle?
Igor, add the hops to the kettle.
Yes, master. The hops.
Excellent.
Transylvanian Magnum. Don't slow down for the silver earwig. Whoa. The chicken's telling me to do bad things.
Dump it. Is there a point where just wet hopping just becomes ridiculous? Like I could sit here and pick hops all day and do like a 2-hour boil and just throw hops in.
I think by a lot of conventional measures, wet hops, period, are ridiculous.
You know, it's important to note that there is a difference between how wet hops are utilized on a commercial scale and how that applies to the home brewer. As a home brewer, I really feel it's all about those hops that I grew in my backyard or in the front of my house or something. It's about, investing $20 into rhizomes, planting them, and in a couple of years, I've got all these hops.
More than you know what to do with.
Yeah, more than I know what to do with. So the scale of 5 to 1, 5 of the wet hops to achieve the same as one of a dry hop, it makes sense because I want to use these. I don't want them to go to waste. So yeah, I'm going to wet hop everything I can wet hop. The wet hopped beers are different. I mean, there's no question that
A lot of them are really good too.
yeah, they're really good and they are different. I just think that I would like to see the process more authentic, I guess. Where breweries are getting their hops either that next day from the hop yard and putting them right into the boil kettle, or they're growing their own hops on a small acreage farm or chunk of land, or sourcing them locally. If you're a brewery in Minnesota, get those wet hops from Wisconsin.
Jay Keeler's yard.
Get them from my yard, Don't bring bugs from the Pacific Northwest. Keep those bugs local.
Local bugs.
And then that ties it back to, I think, that homebrew scale of really being able to do something unique with your beer and go beyond a fad. Homebrewing, beyond a fad. It's here to stay. After I got yelled at for wasting water, I thought, well, if this water is going to go anywhere, it should go back into the pumpkins and the hops and whatever else we have planted in our backyard. So yeah, we're just going to chill it with a wort chiller, run it off the garden hose, and then back out into the bed over there for the pumpkins. Voila! That was a little anticlimactic. You're spraying everywhere.
Speaking of hop madness.
Hop madness. This was a beer that came out of just actually a photo shoot for marketing stuff for Northern Brewer. So we were just kind of brewing for the sake of brewing. And I had this pound of Celia hops left over from I don't know when.
It's a new variety that Northern Brewer is carrying now. They're Slovenian. They smell great.
Mike really prodded me. He's like, just throw them all in. Just use them all. 1 pound. So then we were like, all right, then we had all this random DME lying around. Just throw it all in, whatever.
4 months ago.
Yeah, it was a good 4 months. I kegged it, carved it, and this is the result of, I don't know how many pounds of DME?
I don't remember, but you said it was like 9% ABV.
Yeah, it's got to be at least 9%.
So it's like a Slovenian double IPA, basically.
Exactly.
Smells great.
It does smell great.
It's kind of like red currant jam, a little more like kind of grassy, hay-like,
Yeah.
coming through in the aroma.
I find that to actually be a pretty pleasant contrast to the residual sweetness from the DME and the higher alcohol content.
It's got a lot of bitterness, but it's that noble hop kind of bitterness, like really low cohumulone. It's really smooth. And like Chip was saying, it's almost winter warmer-ish. It's got a really viscous, kind of caramely body. I look forward to 2012 and all of the sweet, sweet cones it promises.
Tell us about your crop this year. Tell us about the wet hop beers that you're making. For Mike and I, for Chip, for Northern Brewer and Brewing TV,
All for brew.
brew for all.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Salaya.
So lay a mother.
Meow.
It was good, you know, we played well. Didn't finish the way we wanted to, but, you know, I'm proud of my boys.
In my country, we have many heavy metal double IPAs.
They all come from Transylvania.
They come from Salaya.
And next year we're going to come at it with that much more, you know, intensity and confidence. It's the only true substitute for human blood for Dracula's double IPA from Slovenia. I've got a good feeling about next season.
Circle of life. The circle of not getting yelled at. We are all part of the circle of getting yelled at by Lucretia.
These tomatoes.
Oh, they taste so good.
For the record, I hate tomatoes. I'll do anything for Brewing TV, though. Oh, it tastes awful.
No, they taste so good.